Hello guys. Okay, so it's been a little while. Um, I have moved into a new little house and I've also had to take some time out because I have a uh, foot pain. So I've not been able to move or do much at all really. I've just been resting it. Um, so I was hoping to get my gecko setup done before now, but I haven't been able to do so because of my foot problem. Um, However, it is on the mend slowly but surely, and Mr. Jinx, in the meantime, is in a tub which is about half the size of his previous tank. Okay, and I've tried to make it as naturalistic as possible using some of the old stuff. Well, all old materials from his old tank. Um, and the lighting, which is just like an infrared light, UVB bulb, and LED light, just some spotlights which come on in the day. So it's sort of back to basics at the moment, but here I'm planning my next design. Okay, so looking at the dimensions, it's going to be massive. Um, I live by myself, so I can do these things. um, so what I'm hoping to do, what I'm looking at is a sort of, there's a bit of a thing about grow tents at the moment with reptiles. They are pretty popular and affordable as well. Um, so I'm sort of toying with the idea of this. It's kind of high on my list at the moment, and me putting pen to paper like this means that I'm probably going to do a shop on Amazon soon and get one. Um, so this is a rough sketch, guys, okay? So it's going to be 5 foot by 5 foot by 5 foot, basically. Yeah, it's going to be like a house, right? Um, because the idea long term is to create like a sort of a wildlife structure in this sort of biome so that Mr. Jinx isn't just living on his own. I would like to introduce him to some female friends and learn about their sort of breeding cycle and whatnot, which brings out more natural behaviors. Okay. Living in solitude, I can totally empathize myself. It can be pretty boring, though I do like to live on my own. So I'm just going to do a quick run through. So we're looking at like a grow tent, sort of as the foundation for the house, the structure. Yeah, it's going to be up in my bedroom, and I only live in a 2 up, 2 down terrace, right? So it's going to take up pretty much, a large amount of space, but I can accommodate that, and I can make, it's there's enough room for my other stuff as well. It's not a big room, but it can work. So I've looked on, so I did a quick Google search onto soil types in the salt range of Pakistan. Now, you may remember me mentioning this before. Salt range mountains in Pakistan is natural wild habitat for leopard gecko. Now, they are widespread across Pakistan, and Pakistan is a huge country in South Asia. So there's a vast range of habitats within their native range. They spread from the sort of hotter, flatter sort of south part of Pakistan, where it's more kind of like deserty, and then you have this chain of mountains running through called the Salt Range. And up towards the north, you towards the border with the Himalaya mountain range, which is the highest mountains in the world, and Nepal. They've even been discovered there as well. I mean, I'm not saying on snow-capped mountains, but like in the sort of lower scrublands, foothills, say, of the Himalayas. There's actually an article somewhere. If you Google leopard gecko Nepal, a document will come up and will give you all that information. They've been discovered hibernating in trees. And I can't remember now the name of the author of the article, but it's an academic document, so do look it up. Another document that I'm going to refer you to is the one by Mohammed Sharif Khan, which is about leopard gecko natural, you know, the lowdown basically, okay? And it's been academically written by a zoologist. So do look those two articles up, okay? I'll link them in the description below, actually. Okay, so let's go on to Substrate for this design. So the sort of soil type in the Salt Range is kind of made up of like silt and limestone and sandstone, and obviously some like soily, humusy, which is like the leaf litter and the sort of animal matter and plant matter and insects and stuff. So I'm thinking of using these. Now, limestone and sandstone I can source from like a DIY store as long as it's chemical free or like safe, so like no harmful bacteria and stuff in. Silt, I'm gonna have to do a bit more homework on that, on where to source that. I'm guessing like river mudflats where leopard geckos have been found in the wild as well, but I don't know if it's available in like DIY stores or whether it comes as a mix, so I'm gonna have to do more homework on this. And topsoil I can buy organic from most garden centres or DIY centres. So that's going to be, and it's going to be sort of like an arid theme. So the plants are going to be pretty much succulents, because it is, you know, growing flower. Well, I may have success in a larger sort of biome growing flowering plants. It would be nice, but flowering plants do love that natural sunlight, and there's just no way we're going to replicate that here through artificial lighting. So I think succulents really are going to be the way forward for this type of enclosure. Then now moving on to lighting. So this is where it gets a bit more kind of techy. So with my previous setup, let's say Jinxland 1, I had a kind of a complicated lighting system really, like a transition lighting system, which would kind of rise in the east and then transition towards the west at sunset. Okay, and the lights would kind of change from, say, infrared, UVB, LED, and then sort of like change throughout the day. The strongest outputs of the light being at midday. Yeah. Now, that was for a tank which was, I don't know, estimated around about 100 gallon. Or 70 gallon, not quite sure, but you know, much smaller than this. This is like probably quadruple the size of that. And it's not going to be cost effective or anything to buy 1,000,001 lights in order to do that in this enclosure. So what I'm going to do here is have an ambient lighting setting. Luckily, I kept my Jungle Dawn and UVB tube from the previous setup when I changed my lighting around. So I've still got those. So they can come in handy for the ambient lighting, which I could probably stick on the sides. Yeah. The handy thing with these grow tents is they have like bars. You don't need any tools really to set them up. They have like bars where you can hang lights from. So that's really useful. Okay. So, and there's all sorts of like ventilation holes and stuff as well to sort of wire through lights and etc. Okay. Fans as well. So, so yeah, so I'm going to have ambient lighting where, so like say a couple of jungle dawns and UVB strip lights along the sides, which will be sort of like the background lighting. And then I'm going to also have concentrated lighting. So what I mean by concentrated is like mini suns, shall we say. So like basking spots, let's use basking spots, which is a combination of the infrared rays and the UVB rays and the visible light rays, okay, through dome lights. Okay, I find dome lights really effective at projecting those rays of light and make it look really natural. Okay, so I'm going to have tube lighting along the sides and then the dome lights on the basking spots. Okay, so one with UVB, one with IRA, one with visible. Okay, and I'm going to explain more about this system now. So what I mean by concentrated. So I live in the Northern Hemisphere. Pakistan is in the Northern Hemisphere. So in the Northern Hemisphere, the sun generally, well, yeah, it rises in the east in the morning and travels through to west via south. And the strongest part of the sunlight is generally around the midday period. So technically that means through the artificial lighting, the strongest amount of like irradiation will be at the middle part of the day. Yeah. So the strongest amount of UVB, strongest amount of IRA, and the strongest amount of visible will be around there. So I need to be looking for, you know, lamps which are going to sort of aim for those outputs, really. Okay. So I'm going to have 3 different basking spots. One on the east side of the enclosure. So I can see here, so like incandescent UVB LED on a ramping up and ramping down system. So as it ramps up in the morning as the sun rises, the ambient lighting will be on in the background. And then as we move towards midday, they start ramping up on this side, but ramping down on this side. So the IRA will come on and this one will go off. Yeah. And then when the UVB comes on, this one will go off. And when that comes on, that one will go off. Okay. So it's transitioning. Okay. And then in the middle of the day, so we have the strongest amount of light. And then towards the end of the day, it starts heading towards sunset and things go backwards. So the final light that's on is always the infrared. Okay. Because that does generate the most, out of artificial lighting, it generates the sort of proportions of infrared that reptiles need for their well-being. Okay, so if I was to not have that on, it would be too long a period really without infrared, if that makes sense. Okay, so it goes off in reverse, visible, UVB, infrared. Okay, so that's kind of like my plan with it at the moment, guys. So I will keep you updated. I thought I'd do these sort of step-by-step videos. So this is like the outline plan of what it's going to potentially be like, okay? Rather than do a video of it all constructed and sort of put together and then trying to explain it. I think it's easier to do it step by step, and then hopefully that'll be easier for you guys if you're interested in developing your enclosures or whatever. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you found this helpful, and yeah, see you around.